Hi there VC, Steve Whitty here, time for another video. I'm going to show you some recent finds across all genres and tastes. Hope there's something I show that you all like. So without further ado, let's start showing off Who Made Who by AC/DC. This was the soundtrack from the film Maximum Overdrive, I believe. Yes, it is. And in a way, this album sort of partially rescued their career. It comes on the back of the previous year where Fly on the Wall was released, which was considered at the time to be a bit of a stinker of an album. It does feature two tracks on the album, Sink the Pink and Shake Your Foundations, which became a hit single. The title track was a big hit single as well. A couple of instrumentals that were on there, but did feature tracks, You Shook Me All Night Long and Hell's Bells from Back in Black, Ride On from Dirty Deeds Done Cheap, and For Those About to Rock, We Salute You. So it was like a mini best of at that time. Glad to have that. This is a 180 gram reissue. A lot about one band that's been getting a lot of hype this year. This is Angie de Poitrine. This is their debut album, and it came out a couple of years ago, initially in Canada, but it was sort of like internet sensations, and suddenly everybody was showing them on the internet. That's how I picked them up, and I thought, ooh, this sounds interesting. They did tour the UK not so long back. They appeared on Jules Holland, and you get to hear more tracks. And you know, I've got this, allowed myself to be sucked in. Brought this album, and at the same time, this album was released. This is volume 2, and I do like it. It could end up being a bit of a one-trick pony especially with the look. But the music itself is actually quite interesting. There's something about it, as I said, drags you in. And I think it's something a little bit different, which is worth checking out and worth enjoying. It's as though I haven't got enough Beatle albums, but the Hey Jude compilation. This originally was just an American, Canadian, worldwide comp. This is a British reissue, which came out in 1979. It's on the Parlophone record. Obviously, Hey Jude is on there, the title track. What makes it worth picking up is you've got Paperback Writer and Rain on here. And I think it would probably be certainly Rain would probably be the first time it might have been on a comp. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it's worth having. It's just more like to tick a box up and say, I've got this Beatles comp. One of the best albums I ever heard, which came out in the 90s, is Beck's Odelay, and I finally got round to picking up a vinyl copy. This is a 2016 reissue. Devil's Haircut. It's a track I absolutely adored. I put the lyrics to that on the work screensaver. I don't think that went down well at the time. And New Pollution, Where It's At, just a hodgepodge of influences that just seemed to work. And at the time, Beck was seen to be deemed the new big thing. I've sort of dropped off the radar with him a little bit. So it makes me want to just dig out some more Beck and listen to more of his music. Album I'm really pleased to have picked up. Generation X's debut album came out in 1978. It still has the Obi type strip that came with it. Billy Idol, Tony James. Billy Idol was one of the Bromley contingent. Tony James was one he played bands, I think London SS with Mick Jones. Formed the band, produced by Martin Rushent. So you got the Ready Steady Go on there. Kiss Me Deadly's on here as well. Very much, 78, the initial wave of punk had fallen off a little bit. This is more sort of like showing off their influences a little bit more. Then the following year, they followed it up with this Valley of the Dolls, produced by Ian Hunter. King Rockers on there, which was their big hit single. Friday's Angels and Valley of Dolls, the title track, was another hit single. This stretched away from punk, very much, again, wearing their influences on their sleeve a little bit, maybe to do with the production from Hunter. Indeed, in fact, there's double drumming on this. He wasn't too enamoured with Mark Lath's drumming, and so he brought Clive Bunker in to initially play drums on the album from Jethro Tull, and it somehow it worked that they both could synchronise together. So there's two lots of drumming on there. Shortly after this, it didn't really do that well. There's sort of like tensions within the band. Mark Lath and Deadwood Andrews left the band. They come back next year as Gen X, and then Billy Idol went off to America, and the rest is history, so to speak. An artist I've been listening to a lot of recently, and managed to get a couple of his solo albums, Nick Hayward. And this is his debut solo album. This is North of a Miracle. Came out 83, produced by Geoff Emerick. He'd been unceremoniously dumped from Haircut 100, which happened to be, he was, as the face of the band lead vocalist, seemed a strange decision. Other forces within led to that decision. Great album. Follows in the brain of Haircut 100's debut. It had hit singles, Whistle Down the Wind, sort of melancholic, Blue Hat for a Blue Day, Take That Situation. And he was riding on the crest of a wave. By the time he got to his second album, a couple of years later, and this is Postcards from Home, the whole thing it was yesterday's news. This didn't do as well. Again, follows the same well, but a bit more of its time of the 80s. Now, Haircut 100 just issued a new album, and I listened to it a couple of days ago, and it's absolutely great. I'm going to look forward to get myself a copy. Horslips. This is Aliens. Came out 77. From Ireland. Band, from Ireland, I do like. I've got a few of their albums, and particularly love The Man Who Built America. Showed this put this on my Instagram. I was playing this, and I've had a like from the official Horslips page, and a follow as well. It's sort of Celtic rock. That's if you're into that. Horslips will sort of feed that need. Moving on, this is Thelma Houston, and this is her album, The Devil in Me. This came out 77 on Motown. This was the follow-up, a previous album, which had Don't Leave Me This Way, I think. It's on it. And the opening track, I'm Here Again, is pretty much trying to follow up Don't Leave Me This Way. Sort of like strong song structure. It's not a bad album. It's of its time, bit disco, bit soul, funk. Moving on, singer-songwriter Janis Ian. This is her album Stars. Came out 74. Title track's amazing. Which is the eponymous track Stars. It's about 7 minutes long. It's wonderful, just how it builds up. It's sort of like reflective. Singer-songwriters at that time were, and Janis Ian was good at doing that. Absolutely wonderful album. And on the back of that, I found this. This is maybe the Between the Lines, maybe her big album, because it had 17 on it. 17 on it, which was a major hit single for her. She continued working. She still does work. History hasn't been kind to her. I think she sort of gets forgotten a little bit, and I think she got the wrong end of losing all her money as well. But she, like all, she's a fighter, and she's come back and kept going. This is an original. It's around this period, 75, where CBS changed their logo from the sort of like original 60s, 70s to the to the one they used the late 70s, 80s. I think if you're in the UK, you would know what I'm on about. Picked this up, had no idea who the band are. Intruders, super hit. I picked it up in a charity shop partly because of it's on the Philly label and it's Gamble and Huff, and I've got a couple of friends who go on about Gamble and Huff, so I thought I'll give this a go. Never did anything in the UK. Had moderate success in the US. It's not a bad album. You got Love Is Like a Baseball Game, which is its title in itself. I Love That's Real, Me Tarzan, You Jane. Yeah, it's a mixture of high energy songs and ballads, which particularly of bands of that ilk at that time. So I was happy to have that. It's something different. Moving back to singer-songwriters, this is Carole King. This is Rhymes and Reasons. This came out 72. People think of Carole King, it's Tapestry. She was very successful in the early 70s, particularly in the US, and I think this was the #2 album for her. Again, it follows the same vein. You know, there's nothing in this record that's sort of like sticks out and thinks, wow, that's totally different. But some nice songs on here. Peace in the Valley, I Think I Can Hear You. Some really nice songs. And on the back of that, I picked this up as well, which is Fantasy. And I think this might be a #1 album for her. It certainly might have been her last #1 album. And again, it follows the same same vein. It's almost like you've got a young-looking Carole King on that. And there's a fantasy beginning that opens the album and the fantasy end at the songs like Curacao, You Light Up My Life, Welfare Symphony. Again, it's worth reminding yourself that there's more to Carole King than Tapestry and her greatest hits. Someone I didn't think I would like. I picked it up in the charity shop. This is Fern Kinney. This is her album Groove Me. This is the album that contains her big hit. It says on here, Together We're Beautiful. It was a #1 in 1980. A soppy love song. You know, played at lots of weddings at that time. But you listen to this record, and particularly the title track, the opening track on the album, Groove Me. There's a hint of an inner Donna Summer trying to get out, and it's worth persevering with this record. Yeah, there's some got the ballads, but there's some really interesting stuff on here. Some Moon Rain, Angel on the Ground as well. So it's really good. It's probably better than her reputation. You know, once she had the hit, she's a typical one-hit wonder that had the hit and sort of disappeared off the face of the earth. Gladys Knight, and this is her debut solo album. This came out in 79, and it's very much of its time, very disco-y with a lot of ballads. It's interesting because she does I Who Have Nothing, and it's the same old song, and it's okay. It's okay. Whether it'll stay in the collection, I don't know, but it's not a bad album. However, when you go to the Pips, I've picked this up, A Little Night Music. This is a really good album. There's a great version of Beatles Come Together on there. The version of Sugar is interesting as well. It is an interesting album, but it's got lots. It's very funky, and sometimes they get overlooked, particularly on their Motown period. I mean, it makes me want to search out more of those albums actually. But this is really good. This, and then following up, she did. This is a soundtrack to Pipe Dreams. Now, this is on the Buddha label. Gladys Knight, it starred in this film, and it's fair to say it flopped even though I think she got herself a Golden Globe nomination for as Best Newcomer, it was in a way, but trying to make her like Diana Ross. Diana Ross had success in films, and this didn't. But there's some nice songs. So it's had the songs on there, and there's an instrumental version that closes the album. It's more, a lot more ballady to this. To this album. I haven't seen the film. Not really want to see the film. Paul McCartney, The Boys of Dungeon Lane. I think this album's wonderful. It might well be up there with coming up at the end of the year. Might be up there with the best albums, my favourite albums. I see it being sort of like poo-pooed by some people, but I think this is an album where I think McCartney's at peace. I read somewhere it's as though he knows his journey is coming to an end, but he's just going to make the most of what's left. And I just think some of it's quite moving. Obviously, there was a lot of press. He was showing these old family photos about growing up in Liverpool. Yes, his voice isn't what it was, but it fits with these songs perfectly. As You Lie There, down south, telling tales of when he was hitchhiking in the days where you could do it and do it safely as well. Favourite track is the closing track of the album, Mama Gets By. And you need to think about it. It's 70 years this year that McCartney lost his mum, and obviously it still has that impact even after all these years. But it is absolute wonderful album. If you haven't listened to it, I'd highly recommend you do. Up in the ante a little bit, this is Motorhead Bomber. This is an upgrade on a copy I've got. Came out in 79, not too long after Overkill, and I think the band felt that what made Overkill great was that they'd done the songs on live, and when they got to the studio they were ready. These were songs that were written in the studio and produced by Jimmy Miller, who at that time was a bit strung out on drugs. It's not a bad album. You've got Bomber on there, Stone Dead Forever, Dead Men Tell No Tales, Poison. Wonderful record. Yeah, it's probably not the best, but it's an absolutely cracking record. And then obviously the following year you got Ace of Spades. This is something I'm glad I picked up. This is Ali Farka Touré Savannah album. This came out in 2006, and it's his last album before he died. Or he recorded before he passed away. This is wonderful. I do like African music. If I hear it and it's good, I stream it a lot. I will pick it up. It's something different. This is just absolute wonderful record. Wonderful playing. Makes me want to explore more of that stuff. It's just absolutely wondrous. I'm happy to have had that. And the final record I'm going to show you, Uriah Heep, Abominog, I think is how you pronounce it. This represented a comeback for the band in '82. After Conquest, which I think came out in 1980, 79 or 80, band sort of imploded. Ken Hensley had left, and it was sort of like just Mick Box. And he regrouped. He got Pete Godby on vocals, John Sinclair on keyboard. But his bit of luck was he managed Bob Daisley and Lee Kirkslake, who had been playing with Ozzy Osbourne at the time, had just been fired by Sharon, were available. So he put them back on the album. And this is absolutely wonderful. This differs from the 70s Uriah Heep because it sounds more commercial. On the Rebound is a perfect example of that. But you've got the opening track, Too Scared to Run. It's a very sort of more commercial sound than it was in the 70s. But I think this is a really good album. There you go, VC. I hope you like what I've shown. feel free to comment. Thumbs up, thumbs down. I love the interaction. So whatever you get up to, make sure you're enjoying yourselves, staying healthy, and if keep spinning. More importantly, keep on smiling.